1 week after Operation Motorman, moderate nationalist politicians were having talks with William Whitelaw. In order to pacify the nationalists, the British government was willing to force concessions from the Unionists. Finally, in January 1974, a power-sharing government was formed, in which moderate nationalists were given certain cabinet positions. On October 4th, 1976, 12-year-old Brian Stewart of Turf Lodge was playing in front of his home when he was killed by a plastic bullet fired by a British foot patrol. At the time, there was no rioting or gun battles in the area, which made the killing all the more senseless. Since then, the women of Turf Lodge have gone out into the streets each and every day to protest against the continued British Army presence.
Turf Lodge sort of started it, and all the women came out with their lids and whistles, and now, 3 or 4 months later, all the nationalist areas, St James's, Whiterock, Ballymurphy, Ardoyne, the Strand, they're nearly all out with their lids and whistles again. The women are starting to show the lead. You know, they recognise the need for them to work on the par with the men. I mean, from the start, women have been involved in the military campaign. But now the women who sort of usually stayed at home are all coming out and beginning to feel the power that they have when they're all banded together and coming out as a force and making their presence felt in the area. The Brits obviously don't like this at all. And if there's only 1 or 2 women out, they think they can sort of abuse them. But before they know it, there's hundreds out, and the Brits are chased out of this particular area. Last week at the elections, you remember they had the elections and we had a picket outside. We were telling the people, why are you going to vote? You're going to vote for British imperialism. You've had it 800 years, and what has it achieved?
In August 1976, in the midst of the continuing war, a peace movement was formed which tried to regroup moderate nationalist and loyalist women. And for the first time in a long time, Northern Ireland became front-page news throughout the world. The peace movement was significant as a truly remarkable media event, which, however, never quite took root in reality.
They came into formation after 3 children had been killed in an accident on the Upper Falls Road. And what had happened was that an IRA active service unit were going out to ambush the British Army, and on the way to the ambush they were chased by a British patrol. The patrol opened fire on the car, the driver was killed, the car obviously went out of control, and hit the 3 children. At the beginning of that, there was obvious sympathy towards the family, and people very sympathetic, and people were very sorry what had happened. The peace movement, led by Kieran McKeown, a local pro-British journalist, used this opportunity to launch a movement that was directed against the IRA. From its very formation, it condemned were selective. It condemned IRA violence, but didn't condemn British Army violence. It condemned the shooting of businessmen, but allowed the shooting of innocent Catholic civilians. It progressed solely because it was well financed, and we believe that it is financed solely by the British government and by pro-British elements and by big business. It continued to about January of this year, fairly strong, you know. What happened then was, in the West Belfast area, the British Army deliberately sent in the paratroop regiment, who, as you can remember, were responsible for the massacres in Derry, the shooting of Majella O'Hare, the schoolgirl who was murdered by the British Army, and other mysterious shootings in the country areas. The British Army were directly responsible for those. The parachute regiment came in typical SS fashion, house raiding, abuse, beating people up, in-depth interrogation, and in actual fact they threw a young boy out of the window at the interrogation centre that I mentioned earlier on, Springfield Road Barracks. This effectively alienated the people even more from the British Army, and the Republican movement were seen to be the only ones who cared and who could provide the alternative to this type of attitude that the British Army had adopted. All through this campaign of harassment by the British paratroop regiment, the peace movement issued no statements, didn't condemn the violence, in fact issued statements saying that they support law and order and that we, the nationalist people, should do the same. The problem was that how can you support law and order when law and order is kicking your door in and beating you up?
Minimum 4.